Mike,
14,
you're counting
15,
again.
16,
I mean,
17,
we just
18,
did a
19,
video about
20,
you counting.
21,
Do
22,
you
23,
forget?
4, don't interrupt me while I'm
17,
counting.
29, 33,
40.
40.
40.
Man, no wonder why you have the arms, man. You keep on doing all the counting and all the rubbing.
Hey, it's important to focus on the task at hand. And if I don't count out loud, I won't know how many strokes I've sanded.
Okay, all right, that works, that works.
It's not my car.
It's not your car. Hello, everybody out there in live Facebook land. We are back once again doing our weekly lives. And as you can tell, I am watching Mike work. It's better this way. It's funner this way. And I get to go home rested and he goes home tired, like an old dog.
And if a mistake is made, you don't got to tell the owner about it on their car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we going to be doing here today?
I'm going to go over a technique called Scuff and Buff. Now,
Okay, and so that's different than wet sanding, all right?
Yeah, so wet sanding, and there's different degrees of wet sanding. So there's hard block sanding.
Okay.
There's soft block sanding.
Okay.
There's machine sanding. And then there's this technique I like to show that's called Scuff and Buff.
This kind of like speeds up a
safe sanding.
A safe sanding?
So if we were to look at it at a scale, here's the most aggressive, here's the least aggressive. So block sanding with the hard block would be at the top, usually really low grits. I mean, I know old school guys that start at 800 grit, 1,000 grit, and 1,200 grit, and then work their way out. But that's to really knock down serious orange peel on custom paint jobs.
Correct. Where the paint is thick.
They put extra paint on the car, not factory finishes. So that's hard block. Soft block is when you have a soft block. Here's a McGuire's one. It's flexible.
And it's soft.
So it has a flat surface on it. So soft block sanding is usually after the hard block sanding. That's to refine your sanding marks.
Okay.
So you jump up to 1,500, 2,000, even 2,500 grit. And then machine sanding. And there's a couple different variations. Sometimes you can use machine sanding to remove orange peel. A lot of times you can match orange peel. And a lot of times it's just used to refine your hand sanding marks to make the buff out faster,
and
cooler, and easier.
Okay, cool. All right,
and then the Scuff and Buff, if you look at this, here's hard block, soft block, machine sanding. Scuff and Buff is the safest and usually the easiest.
So would that be above or below coming straight in with the wool pad?
Above the wool
so
pad.
That'd be like the step above.
Yeah, and so what I teach Scuff and Buff for is because in my life, I've met so many people that will buy a new car. For example, a new Corvette.
Okay.
And after you've spent that kind of money on a new Corvette, and then you stand back and look at the finish.
And then, you get that factory orange peel.
Factory orange peel. And so then they want to make it go away. And the problem you're dealing with is the factory finish. You want to go grab that Post-it note over there?
I will grab a Post-it for you.
The problem when you're working with the factory finish is a bunch of problems. One, first of all, the paint is baked onto the factory, so it's pretty hard, okay? A custom paint job was painted a week or two or a month or so ago, and it's usually in a range that's a lot softer. And what that means is it's easier to sand, but it's also easier to buff your sanding marks out. When you're buffing out factory paint that's been baked on and is now months and years old, it's as hard as it's going to get. And it's always easy to sand paint. You know, that's the easy part, putting scratches in. The tricky part is getting them 100% out.
Right.
And so one of the problems with sanding factory paint is it's hard. The other problem is it's thin. Now go ahead.
That's thin.
This is your average Post-it note. And if you take a high quality paint thickness gauge and you measure, you have...
Actually, you know what? Let me pause right there. Let me get on that side and I'll let you go ahead and demo that.
The only way to demo that is you got to have a perfectly flat piece of steel. This isn't flat.
Oh, okay. All right,
so you need a perfectly flat piece of steel. Then you got to zero out your gauge, measure, take a measurement on pure steel, and you should come up with like 0 or 0.01.
Right.
Okay. Then measure the Post-it note. It's going to be an average about 3 mils.
Okay.
But here's what you can wrap your brain around.
You wrapping your brain? You ready?
Hold the Post-it note between your finger and your thumb. That's about 3 mils. When a car is painted at the factory on the assembly line, they put down the E coat, the primer, the base coat, that's the color coat. Then finally they put the clear coat on. And you measure that clear, it's only about 2 mils. So it's thinner than a Post-it note.
So you don't have much to really mess around with, so you want to make sure you're doing this type of stuff correctly. Or if not, it could go very bad, very quick.
Yeah. And the thing I want to point out is a lot of times guys are only thinking about sanding, but you got to remember, sanding takes off paint, compounding takes off paint, polishing takes off a little paint. And if you're not careful, you'll go through. And then all your good intentions to remove the orange peel on your brand new car are out the window. And the way I always say this is I say, words cannot describe the heart-sinking feeling that overcomes you when you realize you burned through the paint.
Well, what is that one saying you always tell people when you call them up? Hey, I've been wet sanding your car. You wouldn't happen to have another quart of that paint, would you?
Yeah.
It's an inside joke.
That's a joke.
But I do want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to get out of the way here. We're going to let Mike deep dive into this. And if you guys have any questions about any of the process that's going on here, post them up on the comments. Then at the end of this video, or if I see that I can interject them while we're going, I'll ask all your questions. So, you know, think about it, jot it down. Then if you have a question or something they just want to run past Mike, at the end, I'll do a lot of question and answers. So with that being said, I'm going to go on that side, and you can get ready to hopefully, actually, I know you're going to do it. You're going to make this thing look great. All right, be right back.
Okay, so first thing I kind of want to cover is, because some of you may or may not know, but why would any person on earth ever want to wet sand their car? And we kind of covered it, to remove orange peel. But there are other imperfections in the paint that wet sanding or scuff and buff is going to fix. Now, when I take my hand, not my ring hand, but my clean hand, I've already scuff and buffed this side. I have not touched this side except for to do a waterless wash. And when I feel it, you can hear it. Listen.
Okay.
It's rough like overspray, and it probably has dry spray in the paint booth.
Overspray?
Dry spray.
Okay.
It's overspray paint. I mean, it's when they're painting the car. Some of it kind of floats around, lands on the car. It's already dry, but it still sticks. Overspray, dry spray, kind of interchangeable.
Okay.
But it's also, I can feel little particles of dirt that have landed into it. So the whole thing is simply not smooth, and it is filled with orange peel. Now, if I feel this other side, listen. It's absolutely quiet. I've already sanded it.
Yeah, you've already did that side.
Yeah, so I've completely taken all the modeling, all the dirt nibs, the little dirt particles that land in the paint, and a lot of the orange peel off, completely flatten it out. And then when I buff this thing out, what it's going to do is it's going to sort of gloss and clarity the paint, because right now, anywhere I've sanded is not glossy and clear, so that's what the buffing bar's for. But it's gonna maximize or increase the DOI. And DOI stands for distinction of image. Now, a mirror is 100%. So when you look into a mirror, it 100% perfectly reflects your image back into it. When you look at a surface with orange peel, just like this, or down here as you can see it,
Here, let me zoom right in there.
It's like the orange of a pill. That's why it's called orange pill. It has hills and valleys.
You see that right there in the light? That's what he's talking about.
And I use the word mottled. It has an irregular surface texture. And when you try to look at a reflection like that, it doesn't reflect it clearly. And car guys and car girls, when we think of a show car finish, we think of something that has a show car finish.
Wet and glossy.
And perfect reflections.
Exactly.
So DOI, distinction of image. So sanding is used to flatten the paint out to maximize DOI.
I know what we should do one time for a video, just because you got me thinking about it. We should do all your acronyms one day. You have like a ton of them.
DOI, LSP, DOI. Well, anyway, so that's what sanding's for. Now, when we get into the area of wet sanding, the factory finish on a car, I want you to follow me. If the paint is only 2 mils thin.
All right, hold on. Let me zoom in on that. That sure. Thin, people.
Thinner. No, thinner than a Post-it note.
Right, thinner.
This is 3 mils. And the clear coat is 2 mils.
Okay.
Okay, and that's just, those are averages. So the thing about wet sanding a factory finish is the more of clear paint you sand off, the UV protection that protects your car from the sun is in that clear layer. So the more you sand off, the less UV protection is in the paint to protect the whole, I love this word, the whole matrix of paint. That's the entire layer.
So you're basically taking away the sunscreen from your car.
Exactly, taking away sunscreen. And here where we live in South Florida, outside right now, I think it's like 87 or 88 degrees.
It's been hot.
It's a cool day, but
only in South Florida.
The sun is like the worst enemy to paint longevity. And so typically it's not a good idea to wet sand factory finishes because you're removing the material itself and you're removing the UV protection. 2 negatives. Now, if you're like me and your car is parked outside 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, exposed to the sun, that's going to really take a toll on your car's finish. If by chance you have a garage or a carport to park your car when you're at home, or say you're lucky in where you work, you can park your car undercover, so your car isn't exposed to the elements and sunshine, of course, you could feel a lot more freer to do what you want with your car. But just keep in mind, when you wet sand a car, you're removing not only the material, but you're removing the UV protection. And so I came up with this technique that I call scuff and buff. And the goal of Scuff and Buff is to kind of to satisfy that car guy inside of us that wants that 100% DOI, but understands that they've got a factory finish and they probably can't get there, but they're willing to do a little bit of something to get more in the shine category, more in the clarity, more in the DOI category.
Kind of knock off the high spots of the orange
Knock off
pen.
the high spots, flatten it out just a little bit.
That's a better term, flatten it out. I like that.
Yeah, flatten it out. And so it's called Scuff and Buff. So it's not, now follow me on, words are important, as you guys know I'm a writer, but we're not gonna remove the orange peel, we're gonna reduce the orange peel.
All right, repeat that one more time.
We're not gonna remove the orange peel, we're gonna reduce the orange peel.
Yeah, because we are not doing a full wet sand on this to take it totally down. We're just improving.
And to go even a little bit deeper, this is a custom paint job. I mean, this is not the factory finish on a 1937 Ford Woody.
No, you could have told me.
This is a single stage metallic paint job. And it's one of the most complicated types of paint there is to sand and buff, because the flake is in the resin and you're sanding and buffing on it. And if you sand too aggressively or buff too aggressively, you will leave a pattern in the paint that will show up to your eyes in bright light. So
what you call flip the flake.
You flip the flake, yeah, or called tiger stripes, where you leave these stripes in the paint. So you got to be, you know, I wouldn't recommend to most people to try to wet sand a single stage metallic paint finish your first time out. Stick with the clear coat. But this belongs to a friend of mine named Mike. Hey, Mike, you know I'm going to sand on your car. Thanks for trusting me. And
you got an extra quart, right?
Yeah, but I've done some of these cars from the past, and I only use the Scuff and Buff technique. So I use the technique I would use on a new car on this street rod because it's single stage metallic. And I know that's a lot to try to take in, but you got to trust me. I know what I'm doing here. And it's going to look a lot better when we're done. Anyway, so Scuff and Buff is where you're going to use I hate using the word grit, but it's high grit, either sandpapers, sanding films, or sanding discs. And I'm going to show you some of the things I'm going to work with today.
All right.
Now, this is the 3M Trizac. And I think I've got the 3000 out for this and the 5000. I tested both earlier. The 5000, this paint, even though it's a single stage, is fairly hard. 5000 really wasn't making much of a dent in it. So I switched over to 3000.
Now, would you ever come back from the 3000 to a 5000 to smooth that out a little bit, or are you just going to go straight into polishing?
Good question. This paint, I wouldn't say it's hard, I would say it's soft. I say it's right in the medium range. If the paint was really hard, it'd be easier to resand with 5000 to make the buff out faster.
Correct.
But with this paint here, I'm just going to go right to the buffing. But you could. Also depends on your budget. How many sanding discs do you want to buy? Okay, so now this comes in 6-inch, 5-inch, and 3-inch.
If you want, go ahead and hold up a couple of those different sizes.
So this is a 3000 6-inch. Here is a 5-inch in 5000 grit. And then in 5000 grit, here's a 3-inch. Okay. So you kind of see the difference. And typically, these are used on a DA sander, either pneumatic or electric. And you can pretty much use any kind of DA sander you want. Now there's really, the difference is in the orbit stroke. Now there's what would be called a finishing sander, which would be like 3/16. That's about, I don't know, 4 millimeters. I can't do the millimeter to inch equation, but I have a 3/16 Ingersoll sander just for finishing, because that orbiting stroke is so tiny, it's just going to take a little bit of material off at a time.
Now, would you be able to use a long throw polisher at this?
I'll get to that. So then the next would be a 5/16. So a lot of you know what a Porter cable is. Meguiar's MT300, a Griot's Garage GG6, even a Harbor Freight. Those are 5/16 or 8 millimeters. And those actually make really good machine sanders. But if all you have is a 15 millimeter or a 21 millimeter or a 12 millimeter, you can certainly use those to machine sand. For me, probably the key is you want to maintain pad rotation. And I wouldn't go much faster than that, just because as long as you're seeing the pad rotate, it's easier to control a slower oscillating speed than it is a faster oscillating speed. And the whole idea of this is to get the paint looking good without making a mistake. So you want to be in control of the process. But yeah, any free spinning DA polisher can be used to machine sand. Now, since I'm kind of on that topic, here's the Super Beast.
Cordless.
Or the Sea Beast. So this is gear driven, 8 millimeter gear driven. This is the Flex. And Rupes also has one called the Millet. It's 5 millimeter. I would never recommend sanding car paint with the gear driven orbital polisher because it's too aggressive.
Just
and
take it right off.
Well, I actually got an article on this, and I use the word scalloping. You'll see
Okay.
what looks like scalloping in the paint. It's too aggressive. Now, I teach this for my boat classes for machine sanding aluminum boats and gel coat boats, but that's because aluminum's thick and gel coats are thick. You can get away with a more aggressive tool. Car paint, stick with free spinning random orbital polishers. Okay, so that's what those discs are primarily for. And then before I move on to hand sanding, let me go ahead and cover the new Flex Pixie. This is such a cool little tool. And
oh, you're a poet.
a lot of people ask me, hey, can you use this to machine sand? Where is my,
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for, oh, it's right up here. Okay, so if you look, this thing comes with 3 different attachments. Here, let me set that down. It comes with a 12 millimeter free spinning drive unit. It also comes with a 3 millimeter free spinning drive unit, and it comes with a rotary drive unit. And what's so cool about these is you pull the collapsible collar back, and you can stick this thing right in there.
Like a quick change chuck.
Yeah,
basically.
you can switch between drives, so you can use the tool that you need for the job.
No more screwing and unscrewing.
Now, I get asked a lot of questions about, can you use the Pixie to machine sand? The answer is, of course, you can use any free spinning to machine sand. So I've got the 12 millimeter drive unit, pull the collar back, stick that sucker in there, and this thing is ready to start machine sanding. And I'll show this. Does it work? It does work. I'd say I'm probably usually better myself with either a different tool or working by hand. But I do want to go ahead and just show this. So here's a 3000 grit 3-inch disc. And this is called the interface pad.
All right, let me zoom in. What makes an interface pad so special?
What makes it?
Because you got to think, there's some people out there that never did this before.
Yeah, so what makes an interface pad an interface pad? Here's a 6-inch, here's a 5-inch, here's a 3-inch.
All right, hold them sideways for me so I can get a side shot.
Okay.
All right, there you go. All right.
Okay, and they come in different thicknesses. This, I believe, is a Mirka. This also is a Mirka, and this is actually a Boss. This is a GYEON's Boss. They call it an Interflex pad. And they all do the same thing. They put a foam cushion between the backing plate and the back of the pad, and that's usually to reduce aggressiveness.
Okay.
So if you were sanding with, say, a 3000 grit sanding disc and you put an interface pad on, now you're kind of sanding with a 3500 grit disc. It's going to make it less aggressive, and it's also going to help. It's also going to help the sanding disc by having
contour around things.
Exactly. So let me just go ahead and stick this on here. You know, there's really no such thing as a perfectly flat panel. I mean, if you look at like old 70s and 60s cars that have big panels on them, they're not perfectly flat. They all have a curve to them. And this, as you can see, has a great curve to it. And by having an Interflex pad on here, it'll come down and it'll flex to keep 100% contact of the face of the sanding disc in contact with the paint.
So it'll compress, allow you to conform.
Yeah, so it conforms to the curve.
Okay.
But now the negative side of that is when you talk about orange peel. So orange peel is hills and valleys. Follow me?
I'm following.
Okay, so when you want to remove orange peel, what you really want is you want a hard block or even a soft block and a thin sanding paper or sanding disc. And what happens when you use a combination like that and you sand on it, because this is hard,
and it's flat.
I think that's a hill and a valley. It's just going to sand the tops off. It's not going to go into the valleys.
Okay.
When you use an interface pad, it enables that sanding disc to go down into the valleys. So typically, an interface pad and a machine sanding disc like this are not used to remove orange peel. They're used to remove swirls and scratches or refine hand sanding marks that have already removed the orange peel.
Okay.
So then ask me, why am I going to use this to reduce orange peel?
Because you're a master of all things. No. Why are you going to do it?
Because I'm going to show you a couple tools that actually make this possible. And even though it's not perfect, it's easy and it's safe and it does work.
And the keyword's safe.
Yeah, keyword is safe and easy. And while I have some tools here and I can show you how to machine sand, I think most of you all own a hand.
Yeah, we don't sell those.
We don't sell these. But most of you have a hand. These tools are the sanding discs are expensive because, you know, they are what they are. But it's fairly easy to get into hand sanding, and you can do a pretty good job, and you can't screw anything up. So that's what I'm going to show you, Scuff and Buff.
And newer cars are all round these days, so you're going to have a place where you're going to have to do this by hand.
Okay, so let me go ahead and show the Pixie first just to kind of get that out of the way. So here's the Pixie.
All right.
12 millimeter free spinning oscillating drive unit and a 3-inch backing plate.
All right.
And
where are you going to go on the car?
Yeah, I'm going to go over to the car.
No, where?
I'll go to the hood.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to, can I steal one of these or are you done filming?
You can steal whatever you want.
Okay, I'll save that for hand sign. So here is the Interflex pad. And what I want to do first is I want to take and attach this and center it as best as I can. It's not a perfect fit, but it's pretty close.
Okay.
Good enough for the kind of cars I sand on. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my 3000 grit sanding disc, 3000.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to center it onto the interface pad. Boom, just like that.
All right.
Okay, then I have some soapy water mixed up.
Now, could you use just straight water, or why are you using soapy water?
Good question, I'm glad you asked. So this is soapy water, and you can tell because when I shake it up, see all the suds?
There's bubbles.
Okay, so since we're going to be showing some GYEON products for this project, I do have the GYEON wash.
And that's what you have in there.
Yep, I just put a few drops in here. So here's
you don't need a lot, right? Just
a few
enough.
drops, yeah.
Okay.
And here's what the soap does. It acts as a lubricant. And it does a couple things. One, it smooths out the sanding process, but also helps to keep your disc or your paper, if you're working with the finishing paper, from loading up with paint. Because as that disc or that paper is moving across the surface, it's taking paint up, and it's going to go somewhere, and a lot of times it'll load up. So the soap just keeps it slippery, so it tends to load up less.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. I'll just do a spot up here. I'll do a
right.
spot up here, and then I'll show you up there by hand, and I'm going to come down here in the fender and do some work. And you'll see that, yes, it does work, but a lot of times I can knock out curved panels a lot faster just by hand. So
now what speed you on?
Now, since you brought that up, this thing has 4 different speeds that are all electronically adjusted. The tool remembers the last speed you were on, unless it was 4. If it's 4, it knocks it down to 3, so you don't fire it up at high speed. I was on 3, and that's where it's trying to go. And again, I want to maintain pad rotation, and I did some experimenting earlier on this, and I found out 1 and 2 kind of work, but I really need to be up to the 3. See how that thing's spinning?
All right, let me zoom in.
To maintain pad rotation.
So basically, you need to find the speed enough to get it where it's rotating, but not slinging everything all over the place.
Oh, it's gonna sling no matter what.
Well, you know, if you get it too high, then you're wearing it more than what you need to be.
Yeah, so machine sanding is just, it's messy.
Okay, now how many I see you're doing section passes.
I am, and the reason I'm going to do a section pass here and is because there's speaking of acronyms, there's a term I coined years ago called UMR. You know what UMR stands for?
Uniform defect removal.
Uniform material removal.
All right, I put a D in.
And the goal of machine sanding, and actually compounding too in some cases, the goal is to take off, let me go ahead and finish this out and I'll explain what. You're going to take off the same amount of material over the entire surface. So uniform material removal. Of course, the paint is the material. So I want to take off just as much material here as I do here, as I do here, as I do here, for a uniform look.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so that way when you look at the car, you don't go, wow, there's no orange peel there, but there's some orange peel there. Or if you were, it's same apply for like a car that's all swirled out. That's why you do a section at a time, and when you move to a new section, you overlap it in the previous sections. You don't have no swirls, a line of swirls, no swirls. You have to have that overlap in there.
You don't want a checker pad?
Okay, so so as you can see, this tool, it does work to machine sand. And it would make a great little tool for doing what I call edging. Like if you wanted to edge a panel with a small tool like this, and edging would be, say, I've got this edge up here. And so if I bring in a larger sander with a larger orbit stroke length, it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to get right up next to the edge, okay? Because it's a little bit unwieldy.
And a little bit more dangerous.
Well, it's just unwieldy is the word, okay? Now, with a smaller tool, though, it's a lot easier for me to control. And, of course, one of the cool things about the Pixie is it's
battery operated.
Cordless, no cord over my shoulder.
And no chance of getting electrocuted.
So I'm just going to turn this on, and I'll just, now, and look how close I can get to this edge without actually getting on the edge. So it's the control I have. So if I was hired to machines or just to wet sand a car, one of the first things I would do with the major flat panels is I would do what I call edging. So I'd go around and take this little guy and sand right up next to the edges. And then when I get ready to knock out the middle of the panel, I don't got to worry about getting close to the edge, and I can do it I can knock out the whole panel rather quickly.
So basically, you're outlining your areas to come back in.
Exactly. That's good. I'm outlining it. And
now, from this angle, I really can't see how close you are to that edge. What, you're like a fingernail width away?
Exactly. And also, because I'm talking, I'm not counting out my sections.
You never played a musical instrument in your life.
I'm not that coordinated.
But anyways.
I am the guy that cannot walk and chew gum.
Well, I might have a video about that.
So, and I know you can't get up to this, but...
well, here, let me see. I can kind of see.
Okay, so whenever you're sanding, and again, let me go deep on you. I hate going deep on people, but...
Too late.
Years ago, I wrote this article, and I always think it's kind of funny because it's a picture of my thumb. Okay, and if you Google, these are the words, the rule of thumb, and add my name, Mike Phillips, usually you'll pull up this article and it shows a picture of my thumb. And what that article says is that when you're machine sanding or hand sanding on a car, it's just a good rule of practice to stay a thumbnail distance away from an edge or a raised body line. So here's a raised body line. And if I'm gonna sand this, I'm gonna stay about a thumbnail distance away. And the reason why is because usually paint is thinnest on a raised edge because of gravity. It flows down.
Away from it, yes,
and
makes sense.
The edges are sharpened. It's easy to sand next to them. The tricky part is buffing out your sanding marks. When you bring that buffer in on a raised edge or a body line like this,
you can burn through real quick.
You're gonna burn through.
Right.
So here's how it works. If in your head you're saying, yes, I'm gonna stay a thumbnail distance away, the human arms and the muscles are such that even if I try, I'm gonna kind of waver a little bit into it. So I'll get some light sanding marks there to kind of smooth it over anyway.
Or schmooze it over is your word?
Smooth it over, but I'm not putting in deep sanding marks that are gonna cause me to burn through when I do the buff out. Now some guys will go, well, hold on, Mike. If I'm trying to create a show car finish, I'm not gonna remove all the orange peel right next to the edge. It's gonna look funny, right? Well, first of all, I'm not teaching you show car detailing right here. I'm teaching you scuff and buff.
Right.
It's just reducing orange peel.
A whole different process.
But if this was a show car, here's what I would challenge any of you car guys to do. The next time you go to a car show and you're walking around looking at the cars and you find some custom cars with custom paint jobs that you know have been sanded flat, if you look carefully, you'll see no orange peel, no orange peel, no orange peel. And as soon as you get up to the edges, you'll see it start kicking back in. And the reason why is because just like I don't have the time to sand right up to an edge and then pull my sanding marks out, you know, meticulously by machine or by hand, nobody else in the world does either, and nobody out there is gonna pay for it. There are very few guys that can carve out the niche of wet sanding cars for big bucks. So if you got someone that's willing to pay you to sand right up to an edge and then pull your sanding marks up to the edge without burning through the paint, my gosh, charge by the hour and go for it. But
that's the skill, and also you get ready to sit there and have a couple Snicker bars because you're going to be there a while.
You're going to be a long time. So I call it the rule of thumb, and it just keeps you safe, you know.
What's funny is Rolf Fair still have the link open in my browser, and he posted the link to your rule of thumb article.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so the rule of thumb. And again, hey, you know, if you're getting paid or if it's your own car, my gosh, spend all the time you want to. If you're doing this for money or you work in a body shop or, you know, any situation where you're sanding, then the rule of thumb is just going to help you to get the job done without spending tons and tons of time.
And keep you safe.
And keep you safe. Anyway, so as you can see up here, I took and I machine sanded with the Pixie up here. I did some edging up here, and now I'll show you how to do the scuff and buff, and I'll show you the two tools that you need in order to do this.
Now, for doing this, I know that we're going to be covering both hand and machine polishing, which we just did. Now, you can polish the rounded areas with a polisher, but sometimes it's actually easier, is it not, to actually do what you're about ready to show for the rounded side?
Well, it's a lot easier to do by hand, a lot safer. The thing about working by machine is, let me just show you with one of these tools here. I'll grab the finisher. The backing plate on all polishers is flat and hard.
Right.
So when you bring this,
so that's acting as your block, kind of.
Yeah, it's acting as a block. But when you're working on a curved finish, I'm in the air here and I'm in the air here.
Right.
The only part that's getting any contact is down the center.
Correct.
Now, an interface pad will fix that. In fact, you can double up an interface pad. You can put 2 or 3 on there and really get that sucker to start curving. But for curved body panels like this, you know, sometimes it's just faster to knock it out by hand. And when you see how I do this, you'll go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So let me show you how.
Well, I just know when I work on motorcycle tanks, it's just, I've tried polishers, but I just found out that by hand is a lot easier. Just because of the curves, how tight the tanks and stuff are.
A small orbital polisher like the Griot's Garage, the old 3-inch mini polisher, the
Correct.
new G8, and the Pixie can all be used with an interface pad if you want to do by machine. But for curved panels, you know, it's up to you. Do it how you want to, but I'm gonna show you how to do it by hand. Okay, so this is a cool little thing, and what I did is a long time ago, I started thinking outside the box. And this kind of came about when I was teaching my boat classes.
All right.
For aluminum pontoon sanding and buffing and gel coat sanding. This is a nanoskin hand backing pad. This is a 3-inch. This is like a 5 3/4. It's for their clay discs, their nanoskin clay discs. So you can use a disc by hand. And what I did is I looked at it and go, hey, I got an idea. I know I could use this on one of these really cool. It's back here. I've already got it set up on one of these 3-inch nanoskin backing plates. So same idea. Here's the nanoskin backing plate. Here's my interface pad.
All right.
I'm going to take and center this up. Now I'm going to take my 3000 grit Trizac disc, center it up.
And you definitely want to make sure that none of the little Velcro is sticking out.
Yeah. Now I can stick my fingers in there, and I don't got to try to grip it. Now with a conventional block, you know, after you wrap your paper on there, there's at some point you have to figure out how you're going to hold this and push it over the paint. I usually take my pinkies and put them on the side, put my fingers here, kind of like that, so I can be getting really good contact with the face of the backing pad and the sandpaper against the panel I'm sanding, but I'm still gripping it the whole time. With this, my fingers slide in here, boom.
And everything's out of the way, and you're using 100% of the surface.
I just got to get my little pinky and thumb out of the way, but that's not a problem.
Come on, we can chop them off.
Okay, so I was up here sanding this first, and coming down here and doing this A-pillar here, and I got most of this knocked out, but I haven't finished it.
I see, right down there at the bottom of the window.
Yeah. Now, there's a saying, I love this. I think I got this from Jason Rose, and I use it all the time, and I never steal the guy's stuff. I always give due credit where I got it, but Jason always says, paint hardness is an unknown factor. And the paint hardness or the paint softness always affects everything we do when we get into paint correction, or in this case, sanding. And here's where this comes into play. So how many strokes do I need to sand here to level this to my satisfaction? And that number depends on how hard the paint or soft the paint is.
Makes sense.
And I said, through experience in my life, I've been doing this a long time, I find this paint to be kind of in the medium range. And so when I come across a panel like this, what I like to do is I like to count out my strokes when I'm testing. So when I first did a section over there, I just sanded 10 times, and that would look, well, I'll just do it up here where I already sanded so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so it looked like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 strokes. And so I did 10 strokes, wiped off, didn't make much effect. So then I did 20 strokes, wiped it off, didn't make much effect. So I went all the way up to 40 strokes. And after 40 strokes, I'm looking at that going, yeah, that looks pretty good for Scuff and Buff. That's reducing orange peel. If I was removing orange peel, I might go all the way up to 80. And there's some cars where I've counted out 200 strokes because the paint was harder. So, but you want to dial in a process because the chance...
that is a test spot.
Yeah, but well, the paint's just going to be just as hard here as it is here. It's the same paint gun, the same paint, the same painter paint on the same day. So it's probably the same hardness everywhere. So knowing that, it's going to take me about 40 sand strokes. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. There's 40 strokes.
Can you do that all over again?
Usually what I do is I don't like to go
You count
past,
by double.
I don't like to go past 10, so I'm kind of more of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Or you can count your down and back as 1, then just double it.
7, 8, 9, 10. There's 40 strokes. But that's typically how I do it. But the theory is if you dial in this process of counting your strokes, and of course you also have to keep your hand pressure the same, but if you dial that in, and then just repeat that over the car over and over again, you'll get the same results. And to me, that is acceptable. That's what I'm looking for. I've reduced the orange peel all throughout here, and I'm ready to move on to the next step. Anyway.
Now, also, what do you call it when you're going on this? You know, it could be possible at the end of a job you're a little bit tired, so you might not be pushing as hard. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, so you just kind of got to keep in mind, you know,
1,
your physical
2,
strength.
3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So if I only counted every other stroke, that would have been 40 single strokes there. And I only did this one section, okay? There's all kinds of ways to skin the cat, as they say.
All right,
Okay.
you keep on doing all the areas. Let's go down here.
Hold on, let me explain something I'm going to teach here. So I did this section, so I need to do this section. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can do it like I did right there, sand a section of that panel at a time. Okay, so let me knock out this part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's one way to do it. And then normally if I did it that way, I'd kind of come back in the center and kind of shmoo it over. So it's got equal sanding on the whole thing.
I'm going to make a little voice clip for that every time you say shmoo.
Another way to do that panel, it's a little bit harder, would be to move across that panel as you're sanding. Now, it gets more complicated to count your strokes that way, and you got to make sure that when you're moving over that you're using a tight pattern. So that would look kind of like this. Up, I'm going to move over about an 1/8 inch.
So you're making like a mini, like little section in there, like doing section passes.
So I sanded that whole panel by going across it, and then I would come back. But as I come over, I'm only moving over a little bit at a time, so a nice tight pattern.
Now that brings me to a good question. Now does direction
2, 3,
matter on this? Do you have to go to straight lines, or you can go side to side?
5. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. Direction does matter. So typically, you know, and you know, again, you can find your own way to do this. Typically what I do is I will tend to sand in the direction the wind would blow over the car or the direction of the length of the panel. So that means is if I was driving down the road, the wind's going to blow this way. So I'd sand this panel in this direction. But if you look up here, this panel, I'm going to sand the direction, the length of the panel because it'd be nuts to try to go back and forth this way. It's easier to sand it in the direction of the length of the panel.
Or what is that you always say? Let the panel be your guide.
I always say, let the panel be your guide. Actually, I say in your best Yoda voice, say, let the panel be your guide.
The guide be your panel?
There you go. See, you're better at that than I am. I just embarrass myself. Okay, so.
All right, let's show the before and after. We have a tape line down there.
Yep.
All right, let's go down there.
Okay, so I'm going to grab my 6-inch disc. Here's a interface pad. I'm going to go ahead and line all this stuff up. I need to snug this up to fit my hand.
Yeah, you got big old monkey paws.
Okay, and I'm going to come over here and grab a 3000 disc, and then line that up nice and.
Now, is there a reason why you like or we're using the Trizac instead of like the Aberon?
Oh, hey, great question. Abralon, if you look, and I love Abralon for my boat classes or for aluminum sanding, but if you look at the Abralon, the sanding, the foam backing is as thick as this interface pad to start with. It's, I think, at least a 1/4 inch thick. And so for trying to improve orange peel, it's not going to work because it's just going to go up and down the hills and valleys and take the same amount of paint off the entire thing. So it's really a sanding disc for either refining sanding marks, gel coated aluminum, or swirls and scratches, but not orange peel. And this car it's got a ton of peel
it's
in
tons, and I'm about ready to zoom in on them. So, all right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go down here, and we're gonna show you before and after. Let me pull.
Okay, and remind me, you want me to do above the tape or below the tape?
Do below the tape, down towards the ground.
Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of my soapy water, and back here I actually have a bucket of soapy water back here. And if at any time when you're sanding, if you feel or hear a high-pitched squeak or you feel like a piece of grit in there, stop. You can tear this thing off, rinse it off, put it back on.
Oh, that just reminded me. Do you have to soak those pads? Would it be good to soak those pads?
No, you can use them. You just grab them and stab them. Just
grab them and stab them. So. You are a poet today.
Okay, you can put a little sanding disc on here. Anyway, so then I'm just going to come down here and sand, and it's going to be hard to get. I don't want to mess up your tape line here, so I'm just going to.
Yeah, just come close. Rule of thumb. Show them the rule of thumb.
But again, what's cool about this is this will curve around that fender. Okay, so Okay, so I need to count. So I'm just gonna do a section here and a section here. So this would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
All right, now, how many times did you do?
So I did 3 sections. This one, I did this one, then I came back and hit the center.
All right.
And that was 1, that was actually, it was 1, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was 40. It was 40 strokes, okay?
Right. Let's go ahead and
if you're a
wipe that
swimmer,
off.
that would be 20 lengths, 20 laps. Okay, so then we'll wipe this off.
All right, now. All right.
And then you can see where I say where I haven't, and you're not going to really be able to tell the orange peel difference till I buff this out. You might be able to.
You can see a little bit how it's.
And you can see where it kind of kicks in where I wasn't standing next to the tape.
Exactly.
But down here, I've really flattened that out.
Yeah, no, when I had the on there, I was able to see the other
But
light.
you saw how easy that was. It wasn't that hard. These nano skin clay disc backing pads perfectly fit the 3M Trizac or the Abralon sanding discs. And I just find them so nice for doing what I call scuff and buff.
All right, what about like, I know that we have some other ones with polishing pads. I think GYEON might have another one little too. Would those be able to be used as a sanding thing? Have you ever tried one of those instead of the little interfaces?
What are they?
The polishing pad, the
Polishing pal?
Yeah, polishing pal, sorry.
Those things, you could on a flat surface, you bet.
Okay.
You bet. Meguiar's used to make a couple things like that, but that would be for flat surfaces, not curved.
Okay.
But they would work, you bet. Now the thing you also I just want to point out, if you come back and you look at this and you go, well, say you're all done, you go, you know what? It's still fairly shiny right here. Then just sand a little more.
All right.
You know, you don't have to nail it the first time. In fact, you know, nobody's going to go out to their garage and use the scuff and buff technique and be a perfect at it the first time. It's like everything. Practice makes perfect. So I want to go ahead and actually sand this just a little bit more just so you can see the dramatic before and after. Here you can actually see the red paint coming off.
Yep.
And then what do you want me to go ahead and just buff that section?
Yeah, well, you can show the whole process, so that way we can show it before and after.
Okay, yeah, because it's already been 45 minutes. Okay, so
well, you keep talking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
But for all of you that are watching this, I mean, this is a relatively pretty safe and easy process. The thing is, just take your time and you'll get it done correctly the first time.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20. Okay, so that's had 80 passes over it. And that's as far as I want to go on some other guy's street rod.
And also what he's paying for, or your client paying for, you don't want to, you know, go kill yourself and only make $20.
Okay, so let's talk about removing sanding marks. I got 3 tools here, and these are all flex tools.
Do you want to put them like in front of the scoot that over? No, pull the red cart and scoot it over in front of the other cart. There you go. Okay. That works.
Okay, so here is cordless PE14. This is a rotary. Pad spins in a circle. Here is the Sea Beast, 8mm gear driven. Buff and shine pad, Lake Country pad. And then here is the finisher. I took the pad off. And most aggressive, kind of in the middle, a lot less aggressive. Now, normally, if I'm wet sanding a car, and I answer questions about this all the time, normally, I'm gonna get a traditional wool pad, rotary buffer, and just get in there and just get it over with. People ask me all the time, well, Mike, I don't have that, or I'm scared of that. Could I use a Porter cable? Could I use this? Could I use this? Could I use some orbital polisher I have? Yes. The answer is yes. If it'll remove swirls and scratches, eventually it'll take all sanding marks out. The problem you get into with a free spinning tool, as soon as you start getting into concave or convex or next to edges, you're not gonna be able to get the sanding marks out very effectively. With a rotary, it's gonna turn and churn, and hopefully not burn, any place you stick that pad. Now, with 3000 grit, it ain't gonna take much to pull this out. So I'm not gonna have to buff for a whole lot of time. So anyway, so rotary, but you could use a DF if you want to. It's really personal preference. Now, the chemicals we're gonna use for this is we're gonna be kind of showcasing, this is the GYEON Pure.
All right.
Okay, so My buddy that wanted this sanded and buffed also wanted a ceramic coating. And I picked the Pure from GYEON because A, they make a nice system, but also because this is a one coat, not multiple coats. I guess you could if you want to, check the directions, but it's one coat. It's supposed to create a really durable, very hard, but also very glossy finish. And with all the curves on this car, I just thought a really high gloss coating would be something really nice.
I'm just going to move this over for a second so I can get a good shot of those. All right. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. All right. You went quiet, Army.
Okay.
All right, so what else? Let's talk about the chemicals real quick.
Okay, so I picked that coating, but they also make a great compound, a polish, and a primer. Now, this is kind of a new category of products. Most people know what a compound is. It's an aggressive, abrasive product to remove deep defects for like the heavy paint correction step. Polish is less aggressive than a compound, so it's to maximize gloss and clarity after a heavy correction step. And the primer, this is a new category. What this is kind of like a polish. It's a fine cut polish, but they've formulated this in a way that after you're done polishing a panel with it, you don't have to come back with the panel wipe and chemically strip the paint to put the coating on. You can go right to the coating.
So it's coating safe. Basically, we're creating another acronym for you.
It's a primer for the coating. Yeah. And there's a couple of these on the market, CarPro Essence, Dr. Beasley's. I got a full review coming out with Dr. Beasley's. They've got one. So it's a new category, but I have to tell you, the GYEON stuff, it's a nice system. The compound, the polish, the primer, the coating.
They thought the whole process through, which is nice.
It's a nice system. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the compound.
Oh, you're so tricky.
And I always like to shake anything that's been standing.
Shake and bake.
Make sure you got a nice uniform.
You need to start saying that every time we're on video. Now you got to shake and bake.
Shake and bake. That's right. Okay.
Oh, you can pull that back. I just wanted a nice shot.
Okay, now since I'm doing a little bit of rotary buffer work here, I'll tell you a couple of techniques. There's a technique called the 10 at 10. Let me show you
can tell that we've been shooting together for a long time.
Let me show you that. Can you capture this up here?
I can capture that.
Okay,
hold on,
so
full focus.
When you're using a full-size to medium-sized pad, I always teach people to put down a strip of product about the size of a pencil.
And about the width of a pencil.
Yep. And then you're going to look at your polisher like it's a clock. So 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and so on. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay this thing down flat, then you're going to pick up the 9 o'clock side about 10 degrees, and you're going to run that bead in around the 9 or 10 o'clock. And what that does, you're coming in like this, and the pad is spinning. As you look down on it clockwise, it's going to grab that product and pull it into itself. If you were to pick it up down here, zing, the pad's going to pick it up and throw it.
And we've all seen that done before.
And once you get comfortable with the 10 and 10, then it's relative. Then you can pick it up going from
just depends on which way you're taking the polisher.
At the 4 o'clock, yes, just as long as you're always pulling it into the pad instead of slinging it everywhere. Anyway, if you do this right, it look like this.
No sling.
Then once you got picked up your bead without throwing it everywhere, just make a few passes. This is 3000 grit. It's going to come out really easy.
And you're not pressing hard or anything on that?
No, a lot of times.
Basically the weight of the tool?
Yeah, a lot of times, I'll even, with this cordless, I'll just do it like this. I always tell people, if you can make a process look easy, probably is easy. Most of the time I watch guys run rotaries, looks like they're struggling.
No, I know, you always see it on TV or something like that, and they're like, grind, get that paint shiny.
Okay, so a few passes like that. Let's see if my sandworks are gone.
Let's see how well you
boom.
Can. And you notice there is orange peel still there, but it is not as bad as
wait till we get through the process. Anyway, so that's how you would pick up your bead using the 10 at 10 technique. Now, when you're working on
look at the red on your pad.
Yeah, that's a red paint cutoff, single stage.
Yep.
Now, when you're working on a vertical surface, you can still use the 10 at 10 technique, but the problem gets to be, it can be hard to get the product on the panel. You gotta be good, you gotta be fast. Or just take and put it in the center of the pad like that, and then press the pad against the paint and bring your RPMs up slowly.
This is the smoosh technique. Now you're still keeping that about a thumb's width away from your edge when you're buffing?
Oh no, I'm going right up to it now.
Okay, all right. Man, just that makes the gloss so much better. And what speed do you got your rotary on?
That's the lowest speed setting.
Lowest?
One, which is 900.
All right.
Yeah, really nice tool. Quiet, lightweight.
So you don't need high speed, you just...
No, when I was younger, I used to use high speed because rotaries didn't go to low speed. As I got older,
off?
I'm usually like a 9 to 1100 guy.
Oh, is that how you rate yourself now?
Yeah.
I'm not on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm 9 to 1100.
Okay, so let's pull our residue off.
All right, let me get up in there.
And
oh, wow, look at that.
sandy marks are 100% gone.
Look at
so
that.
the next thing would be, and even though that looks good, I can tell from looking up here that there are holograms left
you can
over.
kind of see it just a little bit. Can you do me a favor and take the light? I gave you a light over there and just shine down there on the bottom.
And let me talk about holograms for a second.
Well, let me see if you can show them on down there.
Down here? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, I just see flake. Never mind. Forget that. It just, the flake pops. And let me see up there. Ah, yeah, I can see it up there. All right, go ahead and talk about your holograms. Keep coming back towards you. You see the little line going down as he's moving the light in the darker red?
Line.
That is a hologram, for those of you that do not know what holograms are. All right,
okay, so
and go ahead.
Hologram is a specific scratch pattern to the rotary buffer only. Now, I know
that is why?
Because the rotary buffer spins in a circle, and the scratch pattern that you impart mimic the direction the buffer was moved over the paint.
And it doesn't matter if it's foam or wool, it'll...
No, a foam pad can leave holograms too.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of guys call holograms swirls, but look, we need words that mean things in order to talk to each other.
They can't all be the same, people.
Yeah, if someone comes to me and says, hey, Mike, my car has holograms, and they're from car washing, those aren't holograms. Holograms is from what I call the misuse of a rotary buffer. And the really dangerous ones come because each one of these fibers, you see me pull that off there, Yancy?
Oh, hold on. I'm over here checking batteries.
See these fibers?
Yep, I got it.
Each one of these fibers cut the
keep
paint.
moving away from me.
I got plenty of them.
All right, hold it right there. All right, there you go.
Each one of those fibers, there's millions of them on this pad. When you push this against the paint, those fibers are cutting the paint. So
it's acting as like a sandpaper almost.
Kind of like sandpaper, but it's putting in a scratch. Now, in the old days, since I'm old enough to remember the old days, in the old days, we had junky compounds. We called it rocks in a bottle. You could fill them and they were gritty. Nowadays, when you fill these modern compounds, they feel like Jergens hand lotion. So now, let's go deep here. I'm going deep again.
We need to find you another phrase for that one, though.
If you're buffing with a wool pad on a rotary and the fibers are putting a scratch pattern in, and you're using an old school compound where you feel the grit and the grit is putting in a cut in the paint, you have two things putting holograms into the paint. Now, if it's just the wool pad with a high quality compound, it's going to be really shallow. It's going to be easy to buff out.
Okay.
Back in the old days when you buffed with wool in those old caveman compounds, the holograms were really deep. And
you were etching those things, or just caving, or carving those things.
Carving them into the paint. Yeah. And so things like foam pads and polishers wouldn't pull them out. So we're really lucky nowadays that abrasive technology's come a long way. So I never feel bad about cutting a car with a wool pad using modern compounds because I know the swirl is only as deep as the fibers put them in. It's going to buff out easy.
And wool pad is definitely, technology has definitely improved also. It's not like the way back in your early horse-drawn buggy days where it was like straight off the sheep.
Yeah, so this is what I affectionately call the sea beast or cordless beast. This thing works best with the 5-inch backing plate, and this is actually the Reflection Artist Buff and Shine polishing pad, their blue polishing pad. It fits that backing plate, it seems to handle really well. And I'm going to go ahead and use that with the polish.
Shake and bake. That's your new catchphrase. You got to start saying that. Shake and bake.
In order to use that, I'm going to have to go watch that movie again.
Well, there you go.
Okay. I'm going to move Mr. Rotary Buffer down a ways. Okay,
so
after
they all
shaking
have
that
names
out.
now. Mr. Rotary Buffer, Sea Beast.
Okay. And,
and
most people that know me know I'm not a pea-sized drop guy. Here's my product.
I put enough on.
I'm going to buff a little section up here, then go down there.
And what speed do you have that on?
I'm on high speed 6.
Okay.
I'm actually, when it comes to orbitals, I'm always that spinal tap guy. If it had an 11, I'd go there.
Now, are you pushing hard or weight of the tool? He's counting. He's ignoring me.
Okay, I think
Are you pushing hard, or are you just
I was
having
pushing hard. No,
okay.
I'm pushing that pad into the finisher.
Okay.
That was 5 section passes. Do I have a clean towel left?
There's some over there on the end.
And I'm pretty confident just even 5 section passes are going to pull those holograms out. Mostly I wanted to hit this to break that pad in before I go down below.
All right.
Okay.
Did you pull them out? If so, pull the light out so we can show before and after. All right, remember people, we're looking for like the little haze line, and you see that, oops, hold on, let me pull focus. There we go. And go ahead and come down towards you. Keep coming, keep coming. And you see where they disappear right there. All right, cool.
Okay, so next is, I'm gonna come down here and just hit that spot down here where we're gonna compare before and after.
All right. Now, mind you, the people that are watching this is a process that will take time. It's not like you're going to be in and out in 2 hours. You are going to definitely be here for a day.
Is anybody counting my section passes?
Well, somebody may be out there on Facebook.
Remember we talked about that in the last video?
Yeah, what happened to your counting out loud?
And if you don't count them out loud, you forget where you're at. I forgot where I'm at. Now that's 6. I think. Here's 7. And that's why I always count aloud. Here's 8.
All right, 8 is great. All right,
okay.
Let's wipe
there
that off.
There be 8. And then next we'll go to the primer, and I'm going to go to even a less aggressive tool for that. And that would be...
Oh, wow, look at the difference there.
Now, what's this? Since I'm on this topic, sometimes I've seen people buy the Flex Finisher thinking they're going to do heavy compounding with it. I want you to just take a moment and think of the name.
All right, look. Hold on. I'm looking at
It's called the... Is it called the Heavy Compounder?
Look, you can see me in there. Hold on. All right, I have zoomed in on me. Hi, everybody. Hi.
Okay, is it called the Heavy Compounder?
No, it's not called the Heavy Compounder.
The
Finisher.
Finisher. Please do not buy this tool thinking you're going to do all your paint correction work with it. It's not for that. That would be the Beast, or the Sea Beast, or the Super Beast, or the Melee, or whatever tool you like. Okay, let me put this back so I don't confuse them. And now we go to the compound.
Shake and bake. I'm going to get that sound bite, so every time you shake one, I'm going to just play that sound bite.
Okay, so now I've used this product before, and from memory, you don't use a lot.
A little bit go a long way?
A little, well...
Or you just don't want to overly saturate
you don't need a lot. You're just, whatever. Look, first of all, let's talk about that since you brought it up.
You're welcome.
I just, and we talked about this in the last video, or 2 videos ago, we talked about microfiber towels. Let me just kind of recap. Microfiber towels are very good because of the microfiber size of the fibers themselves. They're very good at pulling things off the paint. Okay. If that's true, and I just wipe this down, how much polishing oil is left on there? Virtually nothing.
None. Correct.
Okay, so normally we'd use a panel wipe to ensure there's nothing there before we put the coating on. But theoretically, because there's just nothing there. But to make sure, that's why we're going to go ahead and use the primer. So you don't need a lot of product because there's nothing there. Also, wipe off is easier if you have a very thin film on there. Okay.
Light pressure.
I'm on high speed for 3 passes. Now I'm going down to 4.
All right, then just weight of the tool.
Oh yeah. This is where polishing paint becomes an art form. Just nice light passes. I'm not trying to do any correction work. Boom. I'm just trying to make sure it's completely bare naked. Now for this, I'm going to get an absolutely clean towel so I don't contaminate my work. And we'll be ready to put the coating on.
Because it takes one wipe to make it all bad again.
By the way, all these towels I have already pre-inspected. That was another video we made. Inspect your towels.
Then when you're done there, go ahead and pull that tape off too.
You sure?
Yeah.
When you pull tape off, Always pull it back low and slow and at an angle. I'll leave a little bit of residue there so you have a demarcation
good
line.
line. Thank you.
Okay.
All
How did I do?
Go ahead. You did good. Now get the light out.
Oh, usually these lights don't show orange peel though.
Well, no, I just wanted to see the shine.
Okay, I can't see. No, I don't know what you're seeing. Is that working?
Well, you're kind of a little bit too close. It's hot. All right, go ahead. You're fine. Go ahead and take it out.
We're looking at peel. This is just to remove the peel.
All right, see how on that light right there, down below where he's at, the orange peel is still there, but it is smoother. It's more rounded looking, opposed to up there where it is more jagged on the top side of that light right in the middle of your screen.
Yep.
So that's how you can tell that you've, what did we flattened them. We didn't remove them.
We reduced it.
Well, actually, he flattened them, and I've just been over here filming. So.
And if you're working on a clear-coated car, you could go further. Remember, I told you this is a single-stage metallic. I am sanding on the metallic in the paint. I don't want to go that far. The guy that owns it already understands all this. I'm just trying to improve how it looks. Remember, it sounds horrible. It doesn't even sound good. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't look good. The paint's mottled, has a lot of texture to it, a lot of orange peel. By the time I'm done repeating the same process over the rest of the car, the paint's going to be clear. You're going to see the flake pop, and the orange peel is going to be, the key word is reduced. It's going to look better.
We're improving the looks of what is there. We're not perfecting
This is
look.
a safe approach for if you ever got the hankering and you got to take off some of that peel in your brand new.
I got a new Corvette because I went through a midlife crisis, and now I have another crisis because it's not perfect.
By the way, my brother-in-law ordered a brand new Corvette in black, and he said we can bring it down here and do whatever we want to it. So stay tuned for a future Scuff and Buff technique on a brand new Corvette.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yancy, then the next thing for that would be to apply the coating. I guess we could do that since it's been an hour and wrap this up. And if anybody has any questions, of course, we carry all this stuff at Autogeek.
Well, I do have some questions. I know that we're pushing it here a little bit. I mean, do you really want to apply the coating when you haven't quite finished that little area?
Oh, I can just show the technique is all.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
then let's go ahead and do that real fast.
Okay, let me go get a glove.
Get the glove, get the glove.
My good friend Rennie Doyle always says,
no loving without the glove?
if it's on your skin, it's in you.
All right, hold on. I'm going to pop myself up in here. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in. I've seen you guys' questions over on the side, and I will get them in just a minute, but let's get through all the demo.
You want to see another Mike Phillips cheater technique?
Oh, Mike's got so many techniques.
Okay, I take and I put my block on here.
Hold on, let me close. All right.
I take my stapler.
Oh, God. Only you. Only you.
Now I don't got to try to hold the little microsafe patch on there and it doesn't move around.
Well, you know how they have the sanding blocks for like when you, that has the little teeth in there? Yeah. They should make a little block like that where the little teeth are in there, so you just lift up the little flap, put it on.
Oh, some guys cut these.
That's my brain idea. Yeah. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make that.
I'm just lazy and I got a stapler, so that's what it comes down to. Anyway, so then this is the GYEON Pure. And hey, Jeff McCackron, if you're out there, love you, buddy. Stay safe. And you'd use a crosshatch pattern, of course, just like most coatings. That's 2, here's 3. And the flash time on this is like 20 to 30 seconds. Here's my 4th time over that. I'll take that. By the time I walk over here, it'll probably be 10 seconds. Come back. We'll call that good and give it a nice soft wipe.
See, coatings are easy, people.
And then all I got to do is Yancy and me are going to stick around and do the entire car now. Wait, it's Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
How about we finish this up tomorrow?
Mike, sorry. But no, I mean, that looked pretty simple, and obviously it looked very safe. I mean, I think anybody can do that. Just the main purpose, the main thing is just don't try to remove everything.
Yeah, well, just know your limits. And
that's even better said than what I said.
And this is definitely one of those techniques where, you know, get a junkyard panel to practice on.
Practice makes perfect.
That's why at the beginning of the video, I just wanted to emphasize this is how to reduce orange peel, not remove it. If you want to remove it, A, you should be working on a custom paint job, or B, it better be your own car, and you really need to hone your skills at something else before you work on something that's important to you.
Or your customer.
Man, I tell you, words cannot
I'm just giving these guys a quick close-up of all the products. Sorry. All right.
Words cannot describe the heart-sinking feeling that will overcome you when you find out you've sanded or buffed through the paint.
Okay, all right. We ready for questions? I think I'm ready for questions. What do you think? All right, I'm up here, people. Let's go back up to the top here, and just Roman Brozowski. Sorry if I killed your name. Like I said, people, I am not good at names. Just did a single-stage Porsche yesterday. Your advice from your previous live stream was great. Thank you for tuning in.
Counting out your passes?
Counting. Wait. Hey, Chris. Chris Woolman says hi.
Hey.
Patrick, hey. Everybody that says hi, hi.
Well, he's looking, just to let you know, I've actually already done the scuff and buff to all the front and rear fenders except for this section. So chances are, because it is Cinco de Mayo, I'm going to go ahead and come in tomorrow and finish this, buff it out, and then I will take full pictures of everything I did and throw them up on the forum and my Facebook page.
All right.
And
then I'll post the link to this video link.
Yeah, and I think probably the key thing to take away from this for anybody out there is just to realize that even though these two tools right here, this one
and the bigger
and
one,
this one, although they're kind of sold for use with the nanoskin discs, I think outside the box, they perfectly fit the 3-inch 3M Trizac and actually the Aberlon.
Some of the best tools are tools from other things, and you're like, oh, this really works really well.
Yeah.
All right, I got a question here. Patrick Horgan, how often or when are you tossing out the 3M sanding discs?
Oh, hey, good question. So let's go back to that famous quote by Jason Rose. Paint hardness is an unknown variable. And really, how long a disc will last depends on how hard the paint is. A hard paint will wear a disc out faster, but here's the official word from 3M, and since they make it, they know it the best. They say the 3000 sanding disc should last 4 to 5 panels. So a panel is a door, a panel is a hood, a panel is a fender. So a 2-door car has 9 panels, so you'd probably take about 3 discs to machine sand or to hand sand with the 3000 disc, and usually the 5000, the finer grit, if you're refining, you won't need as many.
That's like just...
Yeah, it's very fine. I did the driver's front fender and front side of the hood, the back 2 fenders with 1 disc, and it was still cutting. I only switched over to a new disc just for demonstration purposes. I probably could have, because if you look at this car, the Woody, there's a lot of paint missing
now
here.
I know why you pulled this one in.
Yeah, a lot of paint missing here. Actually, I would have rather had a full paint job, but yeah, this beautiful wood, I didn't have to sand it down. I'm not going to sand it down. I don't think the paint's thick enough. It does have urethane on it. A guy could sand it and buff it.
All right. Saeed Hussan, I'm pretty sure that we answered this already. Speed of the Rotary, he likes it where it's slow, like around 900. Most be what, 1200?
1200, 1500. You know,
but where you like using it at is
9 to 11.
9 to 11.
So on the Flex, that's usually speed 1 or speed 2.
Okay.
Now, gel coat boats, I'm bumping up to 1500 because I'm going to be pushing harder.
Yeah, because gel coat's a whole different
and it's a big boat, you know.
Yeah. I want it.
One of the things I always say about the speed of a tool is kind of lame. It goes like this. So there's when it comes to getting a job done, there's something to be said for speed. So I meet a lot of guys that say they like to run the 3401, the Beast, at the 4 and 5 setting. Fine if you want to, but me, I'm going to 6 because there's something to be said for speed. Usually my buffing style is I want to get the job done as fast as I can. When I get home, put my feet up, turn the TV on, watch a movie. I don't want to be down here buffing at some other guy's car.
Well, plus the faster you get it done, the more money you're making, or the more money you're making per hour.
That's right. I like to shoot for about $100 an hour.
All right. Kirby Thompson. Hi, Kirby.
Hey, Kirby.
Some blocks have a slot in the block. IGL does, and Carpro?
That's right. They do.
They do.
This one here didn't, so I used the stapler.
That's the mic technique. Always be generous with polish mic. Top man. Oh, All right, he's John Walsh. I was kind of reading that one out loud. Always be generous with polish. Mike P taught me that, and keep doing the passes until the polish it broke down where it looks like Vaseline, diminishing. You have to drop the rag on the floor, get another one, contaminated. Yes,
exactly.
Definitely. That's now an oil rag. What did we rub on the fender? Depends on what spot we were, what process that you came in on, because we did.
Oh yeah.
we did it with water.
We sprayed on water, we sanded, we compounded, we polished, we primered, then we put the coating on.
Yes, so we did a complete process from sanding to coating on that. Time for social distancing at the local margarita supplier. Kirby, you're my man. I like that one.
I put a hole in my mask.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, have you seen the one where they have it's like the wipes where they make a mask out of the wipes so you can open up the lid, then you can still.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
No.
Oh yeah, but I was talking about, yeah, it's funny.
All right, actually, this one you mentioned it to me off camera, but now is actually kind of cool that this guy brought it up because I totally forgot to ask it. Mike, could you not use a denim pad to remove orange peel?
Yeah, okay, so someone had asked me about that. So when the denim pads were first introduced back in, I think, 2008, I got a full write-up on these. And I actually demonstrated on a 1949 Chevy half-ton truck street rod full of orange peel, and I used, they came out and they recommended using the denim pads on rotaries, and I showed everybody you could use it with a simple porter cable because all you got to do is maintain pad rotation and it will work. And so I taped off a section of the hood, took all the orange peel out, and kind of did my review. But here was my takeaway: is I'm not a big fan of denim pads. Now, everybody can find what they like.
Now, are they just like a denim jean?
It's just a piece of denim, and it's hard. It's a hard, thin pad, and then you put it on a hard backing
We don't have any
plate.
of those down here, do we?
We used to sell them. I just don't think they sold well.
Okay.
But here's my takeaway: is it wasn't for me because I have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to actually use sandpaper, so I don't need the denim pad. For other people, it would, because here's the deal. When you're using a denim pad, you're not putting sanding scratches in. Now, if you're sanding, you're putting sanding scratches in. And like I said earlier, it's easy to put sanding scratches in. We could give a piece of sandpaper to a 3-year-old, and they can put sanding marks in. The tricky part is getting them out. So if you use denim, you just got rid of that whole tricky part of getting them out because you never put them in.
We're perfecting people.
So it's very safe for an enthusiast to use a denim pad. The key to using a denim pad is actually finding the right compound.
Okay.
And in my brain, I've always thought they would work better with an old school rocks in the bottle type compound where you really had something aggressive to cut down or mow down the tops of the hills of the orange peel versus compounds like we have so many of today where you dump them out and they feel like Jergens hand lotion. So the abrasives are microscopic in size. So I just think a larger grit style would work better with the denim pad. That's just a theory. I never tried because, quite frankly, it's really hard to find those types of compounds nowadays. Most of the quality ones feel like Jergens hand lotion.
Everyone's going to, because they're safer.
Well, they're better. They cut like a compound and they finish out like a polish. Something that would be rocks in the bottle probably won't do those. Here's a compound that you can usually feel the grit in. The Rupes Zephyr Gloss. Unless they change the formula, usually you shake that up, you can kind of feel a little bite there. But I tell you, that is one of my favorite compounds. Rupes makes great abrasive technology. I've taken and buffed out cars with the blue pad, the blue foam pad, and the Rupes coarse compound, and you think I just wiped the coating off. It looks so good.
All right, now this one's kind of off topic, but it is because it's this car. Sarah Riles, sorry if I killed your last name, not on topic, but what would you use on wood? And it all comes down on how that wood is finished.
Yeah, this wood is finished with clear urethane paint. So just like if you got a Honda or a Ford out in your driveway that has clear urethane paint, same kind of paint on here.
Now, if it was covered with polyurethane, then you'd be going a different route.
You'd want to go to a wood finishing store and find something for like a desk or a table. Now, the thing about this, and I've sanded down woodies before, but you got to put a lot of paint on them. Okay, I don't have the confidence that this has a ton of clear on here.
No, I felt it, and maybe like they sprayed it once.
I just don't want to be the guy responsible for taking it back and saying, hey, you need to repaint this woody.
Okay, now let's go. That was a good question, though.
Yeah,
because it came with this car. Not very many just have wood.
I am going to put a coating on this, but guess which coating I'm going to put on here? Think it's complicated because it's got a lot of ribs, okay? So I want something that's going to be quick, fast, and easy, something to match my personality.
Spray coating.
Can Coat by GYEON.
Ah, well, there you go.
Can
Hey,
Coat.
that works.
Spray on, spread
Spray
around,
off.
wipe off.
Hey. All right, now let's go to Keith. Get Swagger. Isn't it more easy to use a panel wipe than go back to the machine with primer? I guess that comes down to personal preference.
Personal preference, that's a good question, but here, let me just put it to you like this. One of the problems with panel wipes is usually most of them are a solvent of some type that will dissolve in oil, and solvents aren't great lubricants. Now, this is a horrible analogy, but follow me. Who here in the listening audience would go out to their car, drain the oil out, and put in isopropyl alcohol? You fire that motor up, what's going to happen? It's going to seize the bearing because it's not. Panel wipes are not good lubricants. So after you spend hours perfecting the paint, if you are not skilled at wiping something that's not a good lubricant, the chances are you can mar the paint. That also kind of comes back to that video that we shot that talked about inspecting your towels. So now you spend hours buffing out the car. If your towel isn't completely contaminant free, you're using a panel wipe, which is not a good lubricant, and you start wiping, there's chances all you'll mar the paint. Now, a whole bunch of you experts out there probably saying, well, I've never seen that when I did a white car. Of course not.
Yeah, it's a white car.
But if you did a black car, if you pull down the sun, chances are you see marring. Now, the coating will kind of mask over that, but this, to your question, by using a foam pad and this primer and hopefully a quality towel, instead of using a panel wipe, you're using something that's a better lubricant to strip the paint so you don't have to use the panel wipe.
So basically
to me, it's not faster. I'm just saying it might be safer depending on your skill
level. That's what I was about to say. So basically with your personal preference and your skill level, each one goes to a certain area.
There's another reason for it though too. After you're done compounding and polishing or just doing one or the other, and then you use a panel wipe, you're just at bare naked paint. All the primers that are on the market, when you're done using them, you've already laid down a base of ceramic protection. Most of these, and I think this one does too, it actually has some, you already started the protection process. And now you're building on that by putting the actual coating on. So there is actually...
So you're building.
There's a secondary
layering
like
the foundation.
Benefit. Yeah, it's a foundation.
All right, now...
that's a deep question. Personal preference.
Personal preference,
you know, if you wanted to, I think it was Todd Helm that actually pointed this out. If a guy wanted to, after he got done doing all the polishing, instead of using a panel wipe or primer, you could take the car outside and wash it with Dawn dishwashing soap.
To totally strip it?
Yeah, to strip it. The goal before you put the coating on is just to make sure there's nothing that'll hinder the bonding of the coating.
Correct.
Those are usually residual polishing oils, and a safe detergent wash could do that. Of course, now you got to make sure when you dry it that the drying towel doesn't mar the paint. See, it's all about not working backwards in the process. You always want to be walking forward in the process. Everything you should do should be making the paint look better and better and better till the final wipe, and you say, it is finished, and you can stand back and admire the results. I actually got an article on that.
Okay, next question. Harash Piwana? I'm sorry, I am so bad. If possible, please highlight the last finishing machine, its throw and model probably. Probably just catch that. Okay,
so that was the finisher. And I always forget the exact part name because they're convoluted, but it's called the XFE 15 150 18.0.
There you go, that was a mouthful.
Or the finisher. And this is the cordless. It also comes in corded. It's a 15 millimeter long stroke, free spinning, random orbital polisher. It's a nice tool, but it really, I just always like to stress this for the finishing side. I don't like seeing guys buying these and trying to do, compounding work with them because
they're named finisher for a reason.
Yes, finisher. If you want to get a tool that is really good at the correction step, then the Beast, the Super Beast, or the Sea Beast, or any gear-driven tool to me is the fastest way to go because then you don't got to worry about pad stalling.
Okay. Next question. Hope you got that all down. They wanted to know, I guess they missed the name of the coating. What coating
that was the Pure.
Pure.
Yeah, the GYEON makes a lot of really nice products. It's the Q2 Pure. And
that comes in a kit. Show them that.
Oh yeah, it comes in a full kit here. I did some research. I actually called Jeff McCracken, and he's so knowledgeable about this stuff. But it comes with the block. It comes with, I think, 5 or 6 different patches. Also comes with the Cure. This is a maintenance spray. It's actually a coating in and of itself. It's just a spray on lighter duty. You could call it a booster or a maintenance spray. And it's just a nice product. And And because it has such a fast flash time and the wipe off is easy, you can move around a car pretty quickly.
Now, does that leave it, some coatings leave it rubbery, some leave it very
I'd say
smooth?
it leaves it feeling slippery.
Slippery?
Yeah,
Okay.
not rubbery. It's a nice product. And again, I was looking for, because it's a metallic, I really wanted to make sure this was very glassy looking for the owner.
Fold your towels so you have 6 sides. Yes, very good point. Always fold your towels. I think that's most of the questions.
Good questions.
I like them good questions. I do have a couple questions over here. I guess we kind of covered how long the Trizac will last. Can you do this dry? Like we're going back to the sanding part, so
yeah.
Get with me.
No,
can you do this dry?
The Trizac discs are meant to be used wet. You know,
Okay.
A little bit of soapy water. If you use them dry, here's what's going to happen. They're just going to load up and quit cutting. You're going to throw them away. You're wasting your money.
All right. How much water we use? I think we covered that. Just a couple squirts, just enough to lubricate.
It's called damp sanding, not wet sanding.
Yeah, you don't need the hose out, people.
Here, I have the oldest article in the world on the damp sanding process.
So you were around when the horseless carriage.
You can actually go into Google and probably type in damp sanding tips and techniques and Mike Phillips and pull it up. It's from 2010. But one of the things I did is I filled a 32-ounce bottle up full of water. I sanded down a 1970 El Camino, you know, the entire thing, and then I showed how much water I used. I used 16 ounces. I used half the bottle. So I used 16 ounces to buff out a full-size Detroit Iron American muscle car. That's not a lot of water.
Okay, here's another one that I think we said it, but I can't remember off the top of our head. I think we did. So we started with the 3,000.
Yes.
Would we come back, or could you come back with the 5,000?
You could. I did some testing prior to this video starting out. One of the things I tested is I always use the least aggressive product to get the job done. So I tested 5,000 and it just wasn't really making much of a difference. So I went to the 3,000 and got better results. Now, after using 3,000, I could have come back with the 5,000 to refine my sanding marks. Take the 3,000 depth sanding marks and make them 5,000, and that would make the buff out for me a lot faster, a lot easier, and would have kept paint temperatures cool. So there's only benefits to finishing out at a higher grit. The basic difference is your time invested and budget. You got to buy the discs, and the 3M Trizac discs, they're not the cheapest discs on the market, but they are probably the best discs.
And why are they the best? Because of the way that the actual...
They use the abrasive technology that they use is a tri-dimensional abrasive that's uniform in size and placement over the entire
So there's not
disc.
big clumps, little clumps, big clumps, they're all the same.
It's really the best that I know of. Now, someone out there in the abrasives industry might be saying, "Hey, Mike, you don't know what you're talking about," but hey, that just means you're more of an expert in that field than I am.
You found what works best for you.
And this is what Autogeek sells, okay? so we always have to factor that in too.
Well, true.
We don't sell hounds, so I show buffers.
Now, also, we did that one. We did that one. How much water? We did that. I think we've got pretty much all. Now, I know that I don't think we did start with this. The reason why we started at the 3,000 is because that's what you tested with, but you wouldn't really want to start this process with like a 800 or 1,000 grit.
No, so let me touch on that for anybody who got in here late. Here's the big picture. Wet sanding is typically to remove orange peel, surface texture, dirt in the paint, runs and sags, things like that. Defects in the paint after a custom paint job. With a custom paint job, okay, so usually a custom paint job, here's a typical scenario. Jim retires from his job and now he wants to rebuild that car he had in high school, a 65 Mustang. So he spends about 3 years rebuilding the motor, the brakes, the suspension, the interior, getting the body panel straight. Now it's ready to go into a paint booth. Now he's going to pay Hank, the painter, to spray the paint on. And they get together and they have a meeting. And Hank explains, look, as I'm painting this, I can put some extra clear on here, and for a little more money, we'll sand it and buff it to get rid of the orange peel, or we'll put the clear on and you can sand and buff it. But while it's in the paint booth, that's the time to put the paint on. And so, see, there's planning that goes into it depending on what the owner wants. And usually if it's a really cool car, you know, something you would see on TV or at a car show.
Or if it has custom graphics.
Yeah, they're gonna put enough extra paint on there so they can safely sand it and buff it and still have plenty of paint to endure over time. Now, when they're making a car, so that would be the car in most of people's driveway or out in the parking lot, you weren't able to call up GM or Volvo and say, hey, you know, while that's on the assembly line, can you just stop the assembly line and throw some extra paint on my car? That's not gonna happen. See, there's no talking, there's no planning. You get what you get, and what you get is thinner than a Post-it note. The clear layer. Here's my Post-it note.
You lost your Post-it.
In case anybody wants to know how I know this, I don't just pull this number out of the air. A very good friend of mine, Dr. David Gadusi, the head chemist for Optimum Polymer Technologies, he is also one of the chemists that helped to invent clear coat paints, okay? So if you want to get some accurate information, how about the guy that made the paint? And he said when they were inventing it, they did testing. Well, of course they did testing. And here's what they found out. They had to put at least 2 mils of clear on the paint job to get the entire paint job to hold up. If the paint was too thin, the clear layer would give up, then of course the whole paint job goes bad. Now, when you're building cars on scale, okay, so that means that the Ford plant, they're pumping out 1 million fusions a month, you know, that's on scale. An extra quart of paint on scale is gonna cost millions of dollars. So they're not gonna put extra paint on there because you and me want extra paint. The masses don't even know what we're talking about. So they put on what I always call cover coats. They put enough paint on the car to hold up over technically the service life of the car. The problem with that is modern drivetrains can go 200, 300,000 miles and the paint usually gives up before the drivetrain does. But just in big picture thinking, they put enough paint on the car so that if it's properly taken care of, wash and wax once in a while, the paint will be the least of your worries. It's the only time it becomes a problem is when you're exposed to extreme heat and sunlight.
Arizona, Florida,
New Mexico, and you're around the equator, or you do stupid stuff. You know, you compound real heavily and take a lot of that clear off, or you sand heavily.
As we just said
at
the beginning, we were removing the sunscreen.
And so that's why I started this whole video out explaining what wet sanding is for, when you'd sand it, and it's really not for factory paint. Most of the guys that have my experience level would all say don't sand a factory finish. What I was showing you was this is a custom paint job that has a lot of peel, and the owner and me have a good relationship, and he wanted to sand it.
And he has an extra quart of paint.
Yeah, and I thought I would share some of the techniques I would use on this car to make him happy and meet my expectations. But these could cross over for anybody that really wanted to reduce the orange peel on their brand new Corvette or fill in the blank.
Reduce, not remove.
Reduce and stay safe. And you know, look, you're using really safe stuff, high quality stuff, and if you take your time, you count your strokes, it's going to come out good, and you're not going to have a mistake. So. And anybody that would go through this is also the kind of person that will do proper maintenance the rest of the car's life.
Exactly.
Not be the person that just does nothing and then wonders why the clear coat failed.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. Is when you were doing some of the passes, I was like, listen, this is something that you're going to be in and out in 2 hours. You're going to be spending a day or weekend to do this. So it's not a fast process because you're basically doing four processes: sanding, compounding, polishing, then coating.
Or waxing.
Or waxing, but anyways.
What I would recommend is if you're ever going to tackle a project like this, you know, keep it simple. Do one panel, one weekend. So do the hood first or do a fender and get a feel for the process and how long it's going to take you. And then you can gauge if the next weekend, if you want to do 2 panels or just stick with one panel. Just knock it out slowly over time.
You know,
Same thing with detailing a car.
What is it, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, a lot of times, you know, in my first and my second how-to book, I recommended once you kind of learn the basics, if it's your first time machine polishing, don't get up Saturday morning and try to do the whole car. Just do one
You'll
panel.
wear yourself out.
Well, you'll be dead, and the wife or the girlfriend will hate you.
Well, yeah, the
kids will hate you. Shopping. Just do one panel, and then you'll feel good because the results, if you use the techniques I always share in the products I show, it's going to come out great. But you'll have an idea of what you're getting into. So now when you plan your next weekend, you can
be more time efficient.
Well, you can just gauge off that.
All right. Well, I think that is all that we have. We have no more. No more questions out there. I do appreciate all of you that have stayed and watched this entire video, and there will be more coming. Every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we'll be live. Next week, we're kind of toying around with the viewer suggestion. We haven't quite decided exactly, but so if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see, post them down in the comments down below, right down in here, this area, you know, down there. And we, like I said, we appreciate you guys tuning in every Tuesday. Hope you're all staying safe. Yeah. Do you got anything else for these people?
I've always got cool stuff coming in, so we always have something changed. I got a matte finish car coming in.
Yep.
I always got something cool coming in. So
well, that guy's coming in with the matte car and he's leaving with the gray car.
We always got topics are always changing.
Yeah.
So.
But I have been listening. I've been compiling a list of all you guys' questions and topics that you guys would like to see. So we will be doing a user or a viewer suggestion. We're just trying to see which ones that we can accomplish and mold them together, because we can't just do just on one, just on another, because some of them are pretty short and easy.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure the best way and the best card to get in to do as many as possible. So
let me share my joke, just since you brought it up.
Oh,
so
wait a
most
minute.
of my professional detailing career, when I did this full time, I always like to kind of have fun with the car owner. So about halfway through the day, I would call them up. Say I did this one time to this kind of Viper. I said, "Hey Jim, how's it going? Hey Mike, it's going pretty good."
Why is everybody Jim with you?
It's just Jim rolls on. I said, "How's the car looking?" I go, "Oh man, it's looking good. Hey, I got a question for you. Got any touch-up paint, like a quart? And anybody that knows what I'm talking about knows you could probably paint a Viper with a quart."
Yeah,
so they're like, I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. It's looking good.
Car's good. Come pick it up.
We'll be there at 5.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in. And I am going to push this little magic button right here. And we see you next week at 3.
Get to work.